Let's see,
What was that?
for masks.
Oh, the
Mask requirements.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's supposed to be dropped sometime here in the month or so.
Well, yeah, the end of March.
So I say that the March, but they could have.
Well, yeah,
They could move it sooner.
Yeah. It could be sooner, but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Yeah.
I kind of do that when I have this thing
Yeah.
on.
My wife is thankful that the hospital, they've been having to wear.
Yeah, Dan, that was directed at you. I wanted you to wake up. Okay, let's start by the pledge and Anton, you want to lead us here?
Ready, begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, for those of you that don't know, Susan is not going to be in person tonight, but she is on the Zoom link. So, okay, is there any public comment? Any green cards, Lillian?
No.
Nope, okay, so we're done with that. Association reports is PEA. Is Lynn? Doesn't
I
Log in yet.
do not see Len on Zoom. or-
okay. And there is no OSEA report. Student government, how's that? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Bell, and I'm the ASB president at Bloom High School. So ASB has just wrapped up our annual camp food drive, and we were able to bring in a lot of food donations to the local food bank here, from both community members and people of the student body. We received many large donations at the basketball games, which is a new thing that we did this year, which was one of our biggest collection points, because we were able to involve community members in that. So we'll continue to do that in the years to come. We just want to thank all of those people who donated and so generously. We've also been busy organizing the Polar Plunge, which is happening this Saturday. And we've been able to raise over $1,500 all that money goes directly to our high school unified basketball team. And if anybody still wants to donate, there's still a couple days left. And if you want to donate, you can bring money to Ms. Davis in the front office of the high school. Next Tuesday is February 22nd, 2022, or 2/22/22. So we decided to have a fun spirit day that day to kind of raise the morale of the high school a little bit and bring some fun back in. So we're starting off the day. ASB is going to provide a pancake breakfast for all the students. And teachers have also been encouraged to do 22 themed activities throughout their classes. We're also having a Kahoot and lunch games during lunch to have fun there. We're also planning a pep assembly with lots of fun games and activities. In order to remain socially distanced and safe throughout the assembly inside the gym, we're going to be using both sides of the bleachers so that the students can still spread out and be safe, even though we're doing these fun activities inside the school. It's a great way for all the students to come back together again because we haven't been able to have assemblies for a while, and especially inside. So it's great that we can get all the students to get together and do this fun thing. It's also a spirit day, so we're encouraging students to dress up in double themed clothing, such as like wearing 2 ties or like 2 shirts or something like that. Just anything with doubles or 2s in it, just to kind of be fun and silly that way. We're also looking forward to the next couple of weeks with the ending of the winter sports and their playoffs. At the assembly next Tuesday, we're also allowing the winter teams to update the student body on their playoff schedules so that we can get as many students out to watch those events as possible. The fall sports has an amazing seasons, and especially we're very successful in the playoffs, and we're hoping that the winter teams can continue to this success throughout their season. Thank you for letting me present tonight, and I look forward to letting you know how these events go next month. Is there any questions for me?
Thank you.
Great report.
Good report. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'll start by saying thank you to Dylan. I appreciate the report and appreciate the activities that are going to happen. That's awesome. Helps if I open up the right document. Although probably the other information is what people are more interested in hearing about, and that's going to be the Ready Schools Safe Learners Report. And we'll get to that later in the meeting. A couple of things just in terms of my report was appreciation of our staff and just letting the school board know that we requested the maximum grant amount that we could request for Philomath from OEA Choice Trust. And the funds are specifically to support educator health and well-being. So I've set up a meeting with our licensed and classified bargaining units to plan how we will use those funds. And it's really the range of things that people have done have gone from stocking staff rooms with snacks to food trucks to coffee carts to all kinds of things like that. And so we'll be able to generate some ideas and some things that we can do. And that $10,000 is more than helpful to be able to allow us to do that. Also, in light of appreciating our staff, I'd like to tell you of the comments that I had received about our February 11th date and the appreciation of being able to have that additional time to be able to do preparation. And so again, it's a thank you to the school board for supporting the decision to provide the additional days for our staff. So thank you very much. Another thank you in terms of support for our staff is with our local Rotary chapter. The Rotary chapter made a determination that what they wanted to do to recognize the hard work that our school and district staff are doing to be able to deliver coffee and goodies to schools and to the district sometime in the course of this month. And so I think about half the schools and the district office and district staff have been completed, and the other ones are forthcoming. It's just been a nice touch to be able to have a little surprise and a little lift in the course of the week, and thank the Rotary Club of Philomath for making that happen for our school staff. Wanted to specifically highlight from professional learning some of what went on for us last Friday. We had a group that did come together, and the highlight was for technology training. And what it really focused on is we've had our technology staff have found 2 interactive video display devices that they have ordered. They have some that we've put into the district that some teachers have had the opportunity to use and to comment on. And the training was specifically devoted to those 2 devices. We know that our smart boards that were a huge purchase a number of years ago in the district are beginning to fail, and that smart technology is no longer our best bet, nor is it readily available for us to be able to make good decisions about projection and interaction with students via a visual display. And so the 2 items we looked at, one is called a Clear Touch panel. The other is a Vivi, which isn't touch enabled, but they're ways for us to be able to continue to have interaction with students on their computers, and also to allow students to share and put us into a really good space for being able to enhance instruction in that way. So more will continue to come forward. It's been a great process that our technology staff has put in place, in that they put the devices specifically in classrooms. Those teachers participated in the training on February 11th, and they will continue to use these to make decisions about what is in our best interest to be able to move forward. With the training, we also have what you could call built-in helpers as other teachers come on board to be able to use the devices. When we do the technology update next month, we'll have information about beginning to look at a rollout plan or a replacement plan, and how we can move forward in that way and be able to acknowledge before we end up with a whole bunch of smart boards that are no longer working, that there is an active process in place to be able to make sure that a replacement technology or an enhanced technology is put in its place. So I am thankful to the technology department for putting that together, and thank you for the teachers who have participated. I think it's been a great process. Something else that all the schools have been working on, the schools and the district, and they've been providing information to Lillian and myself, just to let you know that every 2 years, school districts across the country are required to complete the federal civil rights data collection report. And it asks things about your enrollment numbers by specific demographics. And so male, female, ethnicity, race, special ed, 504, English language learner. And so we have to provide numbers not only in total, but also parted out into those categories for classes. How many high-level math classes are offered at your high school for 9th and 10th students and 11th and 12th students, and how many students have participated, student discipline, how many suspensions, expulsions, information about staffing, and just a whole myriad of different things that are asked for in relationship to the 2021 school year. And so we're going back to a year that we were for most of the year in comprehensive distance learning. And so it's very interesting to look at the numbers in this report as they have in the last couple of years. And so we've been steeped in that to be able to get the information. LBL has been a great help to us with the student information system. They have crafted a report that allows us to get the majority of the data, and we can use that, and schools have been able to verify. The things that we've not been able to get directly from that report are things like numbers of students who participate in SAT or ACT tests, numbers of athletic teams, numbers of students who have participated in athletic teams. And so those are the kinds of things specifically that we look to schools to be able to help provide the data. But letting you know that that's just another big package of a report that we need to do, and we need to make sure is submit. And Lillian's been doing a great job in pulling together all the data from all the schools in the district to be able to make sure that we can get our reporting completed by the March deadline. Leads us along when I said LBL has been real helpful to let you know that after conversation with district representatives and with the superintendents, there has been a look at the student information system, which is a homegrown system that has been around for a long time, that has add-ons of different programs. And the look was to make a determination about what will carry us as a region into our future in terms of having the student data that we need and being able to capture and keep. The couple of issues that really surfaced was, one is what is the newer technology that can help us out? And the other part of that was, if we stayed with the existing student information system, much of it is written in old code. And so even that as an expense, if we had chosen to maintain that system, would have had a cost attached, in that it would have needed the coding updated to be able to be more relevant to where we are today. And so the decision that has been made is to license with the program Synergy, which is from a company called EduPoint. And this will be funded primarily through ESD Tier 1 and Tier 2 dollars. So it's not going to be a huge expense burdened by the district, and in terms of general fund that we would have to do anyway. And I have been working as one of the members of the pricing committee to be able to take a look at how that's displayed and what are the options that we put forward. And LBL is working their magic on those. And we're trying to make sure that we can do all the upfront costs to be able to get us started and make that a reasonable and manageable process. So LBL has been great in terms of their work with us, both from a systems perspective as well as a financial perspective. And the transition will occur over the next 2 school years to be able to make sure everything will run as smooth as possible. In this case, LBL will continue to carry the help desk function. And so they will maintain the servers on site at LBL and continue to have close to home tech help support, as we've become accustomed to over the number of years, and continue to have local response rather than having to contact someone from EduPoint and wait for however long we need to for a response. And so it really has been well thought out and well planned, and it will be a move. And the part of it is we will make sure that data is archived so that we can have access to whatever we need over time. And this will not impact the business systems that we utilize through the ESD. So this is just our student information processes that we'll be moving forward on. So you will hear more about that as the next 2 years unfold. A couple of things that I wanted to put forward from that are more items of business that may choose to be discussed. You will notice on your consent agenda that there is an out-of-state travel. There are a couple of out-of-state travel requests. One of them was for a conference that Abby Couture attended. And I need to let you know that the paperwork was submitted in a timely manner. It was signed, so it wasn't something that waited. It got lost in the process of being able to make it to your prior school board agenda before that happened. So we wanted to acknowledge and make sure that it was put on this time's agenda. Also, I wanted to let you know that my approval was in a timely manner, and there were no surprises in any way about what the conference request was. And I apologize in my processes for being able to make sure that we always know that out-of-state travel needs to be approved ahead of time. So as you look at your consent agenda, I wanted to answer that question ahead of time. The other request that you will see in this month is from Jennifer Kessel. There's actually not cost attached to that in terms of conference registration fees, as she will be a presenter, but because it involves some of her work time to be able to be there, we are putting that forward in terms of the request for her to go to this conference in Idaho. The other thing I wanted to put out there to have a conversation about is, many of you may notice that we have the renewal, non-renewal of our licensed staff required by law, that we have to provide written notice to staff members by March 15th of each year. We were working hard to make sure we had all the pieces together, and there were just a few unbuttoned places that we just didn't feel like we would be ready. I didn't feel like we would be ready to have the documentation we needed to be able to make sure we would be ready for this month's meeting. So to ensure the accuracy and to make sure that we have all the information we need moving forward, my request would be for consideration of either moving the March 16th board meeting to another date, or to schedule a special board meeting prior to March 15th, where the board can address only this item, and we would keep the full board meeting as planned on March 16th. And so that's something that we can hold off till scheduling the meeting at the end, or can be discussed at the conclusion of my report, whichever works best for you. I want, other than the dates on the list, wanted to remind you that tomorrow is National Random Acts of Kindness Day. And you'll notice that at the middle school and at the district and in a lot of places that kindness is a huge thing for us. And so wanted to recognize that and recognize the opportunity for people to really focus on the kindness that should be a part of all of our lives all the time, with a special day tomorrow. And then you'll see from the list that there are a plethora of different activities that are going on at all of our schools over the course of our time before our March meeting that I ended up putting in there. So that's the report I have for you.
Thank you, Susan. Since you brought it up, I think we'll just go ahead and discuss the possible moving of the board meeting for next month, since it's right there. Is there any objections or complications if we move it to Monday, the 14th?
Not for me. Works for me.
Okay.
Susan?
Yeah, I'm open to whatever we need to do. I know that we may not have everything pristine on the website. Lillian's got some time away coming up about that time, but we'll be able to get things out there, and we will be able to make sure that all our ducks are in a row there. So if we want to go Monday, the 14th.
Does anybody have a school district calendar in front of them? I mean, is there anything crazy going on that night?
Lillian, does that work for you?
Yeah, we'll just have to have things lined up early for me to get the board packet put together. I'm gonna be gone that entire week leading up to, I'll be there on the 14th, but I just won't be able to take anything and add it to the packet if you don't have it in by March 3rd.
That should be fun.
Yeah, so you're off the week prior to that then? Okay. But if you have the board packet,
I would put it down on March 3rd.
sure. Yeah, that. Okay, Thursday the 3rd. Either Thursday or Friday, Thursday.
I will be here for that.
Oh, you won't be here Friday the 4th. Okay. No, the 3rd works. No problem. And if something important comes up between then and the 14th, we'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if that's okay with you, sounds like Susan's good with it. The board's in consensus that we can do it on the 14th, so let's just go ahead and move it to the 14th and do all the advertising and stuff that we have to make sure that it gets out there that we're in compliance with public meeting laws. So,
Thank you. I appreciate the consideration greatly so that we can be in compliance with the law, but we can do it, make sure we're doing it right.
yeah, thank you. So anybody have any questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Okay. We'll just go down to the director of finance, Jennifer.
I don't have anything big to report. You guys have all the reports in your.
Just what was in the packet, okay?
Our enrollment stayed pretty steady with just one extra student, so not a huge change over the last month.
All right,
We have our audit report. Corey is here to give that for us this month. So we didn't get to it last month.
that's coming up next.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, thank you, Jennifer, appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the audit report.
Okay.
Exciting.
I can tell. I could talk about it all day, but.
Our stuff was in the board packet for last month, so.
So thank you for allowing me to present. It's nice to be in person.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, because I saw it in person this year too. I'm the good news girl for you all tonight, which is really exciting. So you did have to have a federal compliance audit this year. And we tested, of course, the CARES Act money that came through was every district's biggest grant last year. So we tested it pretty much across the board, but your district was the first one we got to test it at. So you guys were kind of the guinea pig as the guidance was coming out to us, but part of that is because your staff is so organized and so able to get us all the information we need in a timely manner. So we did look at the ESSER funds. We had no findings and no issues at all. They did a great job. And there were some, I won't say pitfalls, but there were some stumbling blocks written into the grant guidance that, when everything came out so quickly, it was like making sure that everything was right. So it was really neat to not have any findings. That was wonderful. We also, and it's almost a little sad Bill's not here to give him kudos, but we gave him plenty when we were on site. We had no budget issues this year. So
That's a good thing.
yay. So we had, and along with that, we had no minimum standards findings either. So no public contract issues.
Good.
You had insurance like you're supposed to, your deposits were where they're supposed to. Attendance is something they have us just really look at the weighted factors anymore. No issue there. So all good things. And then if you looked really closely in the financials, you would have seen that your 700 funds were moved and reported on the same page as the other funds this year, which is like a special revenue fund. And if that confused you, if you were looking very closely and that confused you, there was a restatement about it. So it might have drawn attention. There was a new accounting standard last year that really someone said, a lot of times these fiduciary funds are used, these trust funds, these agency funds, but it's really the entity that is making these, it really is their money. So it really shouldn't, and so we have a new standard that says and it's really hard to not fall into one of their buckets that makes it be reported with the other funds. So from a budget standpoint, I think Oregon will catch up over the next few years and have you start budgeting for them as a special revenue fund. But for now, you're fine to have budget for them as the 700 funds. And for you, you've got some agreements that require that, is my understanding. So there'll be a little bit of a disconnect, but if you're looking in the back of the financials, they're still reported just like they always have been. They just show up in a column where they haven't before. So they're still all there. It's just a little bit different. So we have no issue with that. It'll be interesting to see how Oregon budget law deals with that. And then looking forward, we have a new accounting standard that no one is looking forward to implementing that goes into this year that will require much more work with staff, both us and your staff. We are actually doing the first class about it. We decided to start doing some classes to help audits. Clients be ready for it. It's about leases, and recording them has changed and capturing them has changed. And so it's a lot of upfront work, and then hopefully over the years that goes away. We had one of our classes, it added 14 pages of note disclosures, which if you read through the audit report, there's already plenty of note disclosures, so that should be interesting. Anyway, but we're trying to do the work up front so that it's a little smoother for everybody this spring and this summer. So, and we have a budget law class and a public contracting class that is also going on. So just trying to spend some time doing some education as well. So did anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Good. This is a great one. It was really good. They're all that way. So
Thank you very much.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Jennifer, do you need these back or can we keep them?
KBCS annual report 2021. Is that Diana?
We have Diana on Zoom.
Yes, good evening. I am here.
Oh, Diana.
I am not certain how you want to proceed. It's a lengthy report. I don't know if you want the cliff notes, if you've read it, if you have any questions. So you can tell me how you would like to proceed.
You can probably just go ahead and go through it. And if we have any questions, we'll.
Yeah, just cliff notes.
Yeah.
The cliff notes of it. Okay. For those of you who haven't looked at one of our reports, it's been the same format for the last 20 years. I gotta go back to the right screen here. And it starts off with a little bit about the year, and last year this document is you're going to see it over and over and over in the reference of coming out of COVID and how we're reacting to students from COVID, lack of test scores during the year, lack of students being with us in school. And so as you read through that, you'll see that we have been, we've noted that we've been making some changes in as far as our test scores coming out of that. My apologies, I'm pulling up my my report. So some of the changes this year that we have implemented and started to implement before COVID and during COVID was our language arts, how we look at language arts, how we test for language arts, even down to what curriculum we use in language arts across the board. We've started using iReady and EasyCBM and National Geographic for some of our literacy. So the first couple pages is talking about our test scores. And again, this was during CDL. which was very difficult to have accurate testing, doing it distance learning. And so those scores are there on it starts at page 5, working through page 7. iReady is a diagnostic tool that we started to implement right before COVID in 2019. And so we use it in middle school also, which has been an interesting tool for students that we've had for a couple years now, to where our staff can track. We build a portfolio to track students. So that's a tool for our staff to be able to look at student progress throughout the year. Then we talk a little bit about our math and what is going on in math, and particularly how we're coming out of COVID, reestablishing baselines of our students for their capacity. We are using similar tools in math in the middle school and in elementary. High school is a little bit different. High school, we have a little bit of different math in high school than that. And we are reacting already this year by putting more remediation in place and extra support, changing up our math programs a little bit to offer parallel tracks of your typical standardized math, along with some a individualized math program. The next couple slides on page 11 is talking about our attendance. And again, this is during CDL. So attendance was completely variable on family situations or health situations. And we actually worked really hard with our families, and our families were really good about being engaged and being involved. And so our attendance, those are our attendance rates. I was really proud of our staff during CDL, to the facts that they would go when we made deliveries, when we made one-on-one contact with families as much as possible to try to keep that bond with school happening. We were able to deliver meals to our families, and so we were seeing our families bi-weekly, delivering meals and supplies during the COVID. So I think that's was one of the keys to keep our students engaged and our families engaged during COVID. The next couple pages beyond that is again what Susan alluded to, as far as changing how we record information in the Swiss system, and then it's being changed as we move forward. But currently, for our behaviorals, we are recording things in Swiss for referrals. But being in CDL, we didn't have that type of behavior information because we are in CDL. So there is nothing to report as far as behaviors there or injuries. We didn't have students on campus. And then just some generic things as you move through page 12, about no volunteers being on site because of CDL and COVID. You keep reading down and you're gonna just hear a little bit more about who we are. I can let you guys read that. Down to even about who we are collaborating with on page 14, which that's one of the things that we are proud of who we collaborate with in the larger picture. And then continuing opportunities, we're working to develop our relationships with Lynn Benton and other colleges. We have students that Chemeketa is their college of choice, and so we have some dual enrollment possibilities for them. And we participate in CLEP testing, College Now, and along with AP testing. So you can just read through that at your leisure. I'm just going to skim through a little bit more. A lot of these responses as you go through here are just your general responses of like, do we charge tuition or fees? No, we do not charge tuition and fees. So, I mean, like, you can just continue to read through part of this. Our appendix is the financial report. That is there for you guys to read. Our insurances, all of our required documentation as far as insurance and all of those things. And I don't need to read those to you. You guys can look at those and read those and ask us any questions if there's something that you need to have better understanding of as far as the appendixes and whatnot. Again, this is a different board report than previous years as far as information that we would present to you, given the fact that we have been in CDL, and I'm sure Susan and any of your other administrators would tell you the same thing, that there was not as many tests, not as, with students being absent, or less requirements for tests, not as many opportunities even for students to go take the tests throughout the year. It is our goal this year, as we've moved back one semester back into on campus, on-site learning, to try to pick up the pieces and move things forward. And we have already implemented some changes, really focusing heavy on some remediation coming out of CDL, both at the high school and the middle school and the elementary. We've augmented our boost program in the elementary and middle school that offers both reading and math extra support, and even hired an extra support staff in high school with the use of some SSA funds to support our math program. One of the things I am really proud of is our students are having an opportunity for some extracurricular activities. And we've tried to really focus on giving students across the age groups these opportunities. We've had some really successful soccer programs, cross country, some engineering, and these are helping students to readjust to being with their peers again, creating some social bonds. It's very intentional to allow students to have these structured activities outside of the classroom to reaffirm peer relationships. And so that's been one of our focuses of being able to help children transition back to being into school full time again. That was a whole lot of words from me. Is there anything that I can answer for you in particular, or anything you'd like to hear more about?
Not for me.
No. Thank you, Diana.
Again, as we move through this year, at any point in time, if any of you would like to come out to Kings Valley, just send me an email, give me a call. I'd be very happy to show you our school and show us your campus, and so that you can come out and see a little bit more of who Kings Valley is and who our students are. You didn't have the opportunity to do that last year, and so I would very much like to invite you out to have a tour of our school.
Thank you, Diana. The report kind of mirrors exactly the things that I would anticipate that it would, like you said, because of CDL, and just appreciate the efforts that are put in moving forward, and the consciousness and awareness of students' academic progress, but also their social emotional progress as well. So thank you.
Right. It is our pleasure, our community, our students, that is our passion and our commitment, and helping them be successful during even this stressful transition year is really our goal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions or anything? Comments? Okay. Thanks, Diana.
You're welcome.
The former academy report. I was going to skip that.
That's why the meeting's today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow's kindness day.
Okay, Dan, you're up.
This is Dan and his crew.
Okay, Dan and crew then.
I don't like sitting down.
I know.
You can look behind me, I won't be forward. All right. Well, thank you for allowing us to come and talk with you this evening and share what we're doing. You know, being the alternative school, a lot of people think we're only the online school or an online school, but we are an alternative school for students using online curriculum to help guide us. I don't know, go off topic already. I want to thank Aaron actually for last year asking why our students who get the GED don't do celebrations. Because of you, they do. So we handed out a new improved sheet tonight. It has a couple things different. On Friday, we had 2 more people pass their GED, so we're working now with them and their families to put a cap and gown on them and have a celebration. We've had some students coming in and out, and our number as of sometime today when I clicked it, we're up to 109. When you add up what we're serving, not counting PES quarantine, that I'm sure Jennifer will talk about when we get there, we see about 153 students online every day. You know, so which is about 10% of the total school district. So with that, a couple of thanks as well. I want to thank Superintendent Halliday. She and I, in the last 2 meetings, have discussed the value of staff, and she has agreed to have Jennifer continue on to next year. So we have a K-5 teacher. What's so exciting about that for us is with all of us, there is an opportunity for families to access in-person, in on-site real people, where last year we were doing a lot of stuff as everybody was, and students were getting maybe once, twice a week with a teacher, or once, twice a month, with a teacher. And now we have an expert on staff and serving students, and I will stop there so you can talk about that when we come around. Our staff, I'll just go ahead and introduce. We have Beth Edmond, our counselor, Jennifer House, our K-5 specialist, Emily Strong, who does everything. I need to talk to the association about changing titles, from registrar to just everything. Special education for her behind me is Rob Zarfis, our math and science teacher. Who you don't see is Daniel Makula, who sent me a text saying, I can't get there, I'm trying, he's dealing with pools and all this stuff. I will read a statement from him. I'm sure my impression will be impeccable. And then we have another instructional assistant, Shaykh McCullough, who's working with us now to finish up the school year. So as you know, and everybody's been talking about for way too long, COVID has changed the face of education. And the Academy is doing our best to adapt to this challenge. The one pager that is in the packet, plus what we just handed out this evening, really talks about how we are working to meet the needs of students. So we're looking at flexible schedules. We have students at work. We have students that need to have other family issues. We have students in the hospital. We have students all over. So we're trying to meet the needs of students. I'll have Rob tell his 2:30 story later, 2:30 in the morning, when he actually was emailing with a student because he was up and they were doing their homework. So it's kind of neat. Those
With the baby.
yeah.
I was up with the baby.
I help you sleep. But that's a different issue. So I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Edmond discuss some of the ways that she works with students.
Yeah, so I've been a counselor in the district since 2004, and this has been by far the most amazing transition for me into this position at Homeroom Academy. I'm not just a counselor at the Homeroom Academy, I'm also a teacher. And I can be an individual tutor. I was working with a student the other day on their English. And it was so impressive just listening to her and the insight she had with her English class. But for the most part, I'm a K-12 counselor for the academy, but I really am working mostly with, let's say, the high schoolers, and I have some 7th and 8th graders that I work with a lot. Well, what I appreciate most is the flexibility that I have in working with students and meeting their needs. So my students that are not on site because they're in the hospital, or my students that really can't focus on 7 classes at a time. And I'm like, okay, let's do 1 class for 3 weeks, and let's get you through 1 class at a time. And I just have that ability to come up with any plan that any kid needs, and that has been the best part of my job. And just I have an amazing team. We met with ODE back in the fall, and it was, we talked to them for 2 hours about our school, and it was just so, I just thought our team was the best, and I was so happy. And I love all our kids. I still work really closely with the high school counselors and the high school admin, because I have, every day we have almost 40 kids, high school students in our area that we are helping with credit recovery. And I'm also working on just making sure I'm individualizing their programs, because there's some kids from the high school that are really struggling right now that haven't engaged in school in a couple of years. And so just trying to get them back up to speed to where they are so that they can graduate from Columbus High School. Same thing with seniors this year. Right now, we have quite an enrollment of seniors, but I've been working with every single one of them, because if their plan is they want to graduate from Columbus High School, well, let's get you there by trimester 3 so you can walk with Columbus High School. So that's a big part of what I'm doing every day, is just engaging with students. Fridays, I get to still deliver food, which was one of the best parts of CDL. All the counselors were doing that. But I've got to continue that because my students are mostly at home. And Dan and I are not afraid to go knock on doors and find students. We had a student who hadn't been engaging for, gosh, a couple months, it felt like. And we found that student, and they came in last week and got their, finished up their GED. So that's been really fun too. They're like, how did you find me? We have our ways. So yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted me to understand?
I think that's
Okay,
perfect. So I'm now going to do my best Mr. McCula impersonation. He and I had a great conversation about some of the differences. There's a great question. So tell me about the academy. What does the academy do? How does it work? How is the academy different as a teacher versus in person, every day, brick and mortar, or at the academy? So he says, having taught in a traditional classroom for 18 years, I found myself having to adjust to some things that are specific to schools like the academy that provide non-traditional opportunities to learning. This more flexible, student-centered educational experience introduces additional challenges, specifically in the areas of preparation and assessment. While the amount of work on the front end of teaching in a traditional program is lessened due to the format of the curriculum, the work involved in supporting students, each with their own learning style, each enrolled in different courses, each with their own schedule, makes teaching using an online approach very different on the back end of the learning process. In the past, I would spend a good deal of time preparing for a unit. I would deliver instruction to all of the students at the same time, then choose to close the circle by assessing all of the students simultaneously before repeating the process in the next unit. Working with the framework of the Academy Language Arts program, which currently provides support to students in 12 different sections, means more focus on supporting the students during and after the traditional unit structure ends. As an academy teacher, I am tasked with keeping abreast of all of the hundreds of lessons and materials from 12 different sections, spending time revisiting each text being used for the assignment currently being learned for each student. The best way I can describe it is that the iceberg has been flipped to provide the type of instruction necessary for those students. Instead of much of the work being done under the surface in the beginning in the traditional classroom, the work to support and refine learning means substantial time and effort as well as a large commitment to meeting the students where they are educationally. And in our conversation even today, you know, we'll bet I love my job. So it's a great opportunity to just meet kids where they are. So I will now turn it over to Mr. Zarfus.
Yeah, I'll just give you a picture. So I like to think of it as like the difference between a farm and a garden. So farmers, like traditional classroom teachers, they plant with broad strokes. They sow the whole seed, the whole field with the same kind of culture. Most teachers will have, 2, 3, 4 classes, just like a farmer will have maybe 2, 3, 4 crops that they specialize in. They fertilize and water with, big machines designed to spread everything equally across a broad swath. And when it comes time to harvest, you harvest kind of a monoculture, a big batch of the same thing, then you send it off, plow the field, and do the same thing again. Whereas the academy is more like a garden. We are tending to individual plants. There are some plants that just won't survive in a field. There's some plants that just cannot grow on a farm. Think of like orchids. They need a lot of specialized attention. And so in a gardener can have, several dozen individual plants, some in small batches, some needing a specific garden box with specific watering needs and specific pH in the soil, some that need a little trellis, some that need their own pot. And a gardener can handle all that. I mean, I'm currently running 31 simultaneous classes. And just like, Mr. McClue was talking about, each one has their own individual need. And does the farmer or the gardener love their plants or the land more? No, absolutely not. They're both important. They both can do different things. But plants that would thrive in a field, you don't need to garden. You don't need the special attention, but plants that would die in a field need the special attention. And that's where we come in. And so that's the way I conceptualize this. Mr. McClue was talking about being in a traditional classroom for 18 years. I've never been in a traditional classroom. This has been my work. And so I don't have an ending. I hope you get the picture that I'm painting. Whereas, some kids just will not thrive in a classroom full of 20 or 30 students. They need a smaller space for whatever reason. And that we're there to provide whatever custom settings that kid needs for them to be successful.
I want to give props to Mr. Zarfus. I share a wall with him. And yes, he's teaching 31 classes from Algebra 1 to AP Calculus, physical science to chemistry and physics. And I listen to him on Zooms with kids seamlessly move from Algebra 1 to AP Calculus, back and forth, and so quickly like that. And I'm always impressed. And I love to hear the math conversations that he has with kids. His AP Calculus stuff that he talks about with his students, I'm just like, wow, you're blowing my mind over here. So I really appreciate him.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well,
You're a good neighbor. Some people would complain about all that.
I just yell back and forth like, hey, you're beeping too loudly.
My turn?
Your turn, Jen.
Okay, well, so here's what it looks like at the elementary school. So we know that distance learning was tough for some and it was great for others. And what I am loving is that I'm able to kind of take those kids and those families, because really it's almost more about the families when they're this young. And I get to basically find out what they need and I get to provide it. So for example, I had a day a few weeks ago where I started out the morning with a phonics lesson for a second grader. And then I had a fourth grader on, the second grader was in person. Then I had a fourth grader online for a math lesson. We did it daily.
And then I had a writing lesson with a 4th and 5th grader. And then I did Oregon Trail in the afternoon. And I was reading a book. We were reading The Tale of Despereaux together. A boy and I were reading that together. And that was my day. And it was so fabulous. I feel like I'm able to take what these families need and provide it for them. We've got kids who are taking foreign languages, because they can't, of course, get that here. We've got kids who they work around their field trip schedule because their family loves going to museums and to all these things, and that's what they do. My hope for the program is that we'll start being able to get a lot of those families that are homeschooling families. I do have some that actually, I have 4 students that their families tried to do homeschooling, it was too hard, but they wanted to be able to still have that flexibility. So they came to our program and are loving it. And I would like to start getting more of those families. I would like to start getting the community involved and to be able to maybe do offer some PE classes, whether that be just for elementary or even moving up to middle high school. Chiseled Spirit has offered to, they do a great job teaching some kids stuff already, and we could maybe contract with them. Max Tibby would be a great thing to be able to start offering some art classes. Basically, I want to find out what families want, what families need, and I would love to be able to try and help provide that for them in a non-traditional setting, so that we can kind of get together and still be part of the great community that we have. It's a great job, everybody. It's a great job. I love it.
Emily, who does everything, you know.
Yes, let me talk about everything.
She has to put up with me, so you already know. So with that, I had a conversation with Mr. Belleville, the high school principal, today, and we're having conversations of how do we meet the needs of a few more students that are currently living at the high school, a few at the academy. And one of the things is we need to continue the quest to have more in-person connections with students. And unfortunately, as King Valley said, come visit us, come visit us. You'll discover that the high school library is a high school library.
Yes.
So space is becoming an issue where we wander a second grader through high school library filled with high schoolers and put them in a side room. And many of us are literally working out of closets.
Well, and also mine is a partition, which
Yes.
means that anything that comes out of a high schooler's mouth goes into my 2nd grader's ears. So, yeah.
So as we're growing, and we are, last year's numbers were slightly skewed. But I believe we ended the year at 150 and we're at 109 enrolled now and growing. And I'm hoping that with the presence of Mrs. House, now we can start going out and addressing more of those families that would prefer to school at home versus homeschool. So that's our quest and goal. And speaking of goals, obviously we're trying to meet needs of every student, increase their daily attendance. Attendance is weird because it is second period, it's Mr. Daly sitting in the room. It's not in everything, who's looking at, are they engaged, have they met some standards? So, and we're constant communication. Flipping engagement is my new big push. I would love to form a philosophy or a culture better than that, where Mr. Zarfis isn't reaching out. Ms. Edmund and I aren't pounding on doors to find the student. They're really actively engaged, finding us, trying to take control of their own learning. So instead of teacher-driven, do your work, because everybody says you have to, it's give me, because I need this for what I'm doing. So that's kind of where we're hoping to go. And then, the vision of the future, our own space and on-site classes that, Mr. Belvin and I are talking about is how do we may need to have some very targeted specific classes to serve students who don't succeed right now in the traditional classroom for whatever reason, and will not survive solely in a self motivated, self-driven, online curriculum. So we need to find that space, and we believe the academy is a place that we can do that. But how do we meet those needs? Where do we serve them from? So, with that, any other comments?
I just wanted to talk about the adult basic ed courses that we hope to have for the future. Once we became a GED testing site, that changed so much for a lot of our students. And in talking to our students, we're talking to their families, and some of their family members did not complete high school, they don't have their GED. So we want to be able to help their families too access that and be able to give them the tests and just help our community in that one too.
I forgot to mention quarantine kids, so I'm just gonna say that quickly. So, fall happened, and I'm telling you, my friends, whom I love at PES were really, really stressed, feeling like they had to take care of their classroom plus provide home things, learning for 2 weeks for kids who were going on quarantine. And so I went to Dan and I said, I know we can't enroll them in Paloma Academy, but it would be sure nice if we could just put together 2 weeks worth of things that they need to know, grammar things, how to write a paragraph, multiplication for 4th grade, division for 5th grade, put together some 2 weeks of programs for all of those grade levels and just offer it to the teachers and say, listen, if you have too much on your plate, then when your kids go on quarantine, I'll enroll them in here and I'll take care of grading all their stuff and everything. And then just as long as I can't take what they want to do and teach what they need to do because I have too many of my own students, it's too difficult, but I can handle it within my realm. And actually it's worked out really well. Again, there have been 34 students that have come through quarantine. There a lot at the end of January. There was a time where I thought, oh, what have I done to myself when I was going through and grading all their stuff, but it was worth it. And I'm glad that we could provide that help to the teachers. And also it was a lot of fun for me because I sent out invitations for kids to join me when I was meeting with my students, and we did some games and things like that. And we had just a really good time. I had some other students that had known me and they just wanted to check in with me and get extra help on learning their math facts or something. So anyway, we're happy that we were able to provide that. And I would love to be able to have a great relationship with PES for anything like that, whether it be kids who are sick. I've got a boy who is taking on chemotherapy right now for PES. And I just want to make sure that we have a really good communication, which I think so far we do. And I hope that we can keep that and grow that so that it's a real symbiotic relationship.
Thank you. Your passion and the love for what you're doing, because it really just gives me goosebumps. Like, it's amazing. It comes across, and I thank you so much for all you're doing. Nice to see people really happy too.
Yeah, we are.
We love it. We love it.
And thank you for having us and letting us come and share what we are loving right now.
It is amazing the passion that I see sitting and standing there. I mean, it's just unreal.
It makes being on the school board right now worth it.
Well, as Dan likes to tell us, our North Star is doing what is best for every single student, each individual student. So I think we all live by that. We are here to serve.
Well, I know our family has benefited from the academy in a few different ways. But I do think that my kiddo might have been like one of the first couple GED completers through the academy. So it has a very special place in my consideration and in my heart. So thank you for everything that you are doing. It's definitely making an impact on a lot of people who you might not even realize it's affecting. So, and I'll say every time somebody, part of my job, I have to like scan social media a lot. And just today, somebody was looking for some sort of an online program, and they're in Corvallis, and I was like, wow. You might be able to do an inter-district transfer, because apparently they've reached their capacity for how many students they will allow into their online programs right now, so.
Well, and speaking of
Plug.
capacity, one of the things, I'm pleased at the quality that we are creating and trying to grow. House Bill 4119 is a committee, which is removing the cap. It was remove the cap, the 3% cap that districts have for students to go to other virtual programs. So by us having one and building a quality one, I think it's a way of us helping, students, whether they're here or want to come to us from Corvallis or other locations.
You have a question, Rick?
I'm looking on this thing here on the enrollment as of 2/16/22, 18 ID3.
Interdistrict transfers. Interdistrict transfers.
Oh, interdistrict.
Using Mr. Mancuso's math, those are good.
Yeah, I just didn't know what IDT stood for. So then the ABE courses, that's an adult.
Basic education, yes.
Basic education. So, okay. Well, that was my question. And then Beth kind of addressed it. And it's like, but then again, with these things on, I don't hear very well to start with. And then it's like, huh?
So I appreciate the fact that I kind of stuck some things on here on purpose to try to get questions and what I'm trying to teach students and my staff will probably heard this once or twice. I'd rather kids suffer loudly than silently, because then at least I know. So if you're asking a question, we can do things. So yes. So maybe
I got to hand it to you on how you educate so many kids. I can't even, I'm not a technology person. I'll be the first to admit that, let alone know how to educate them through the technology and to do a good job of it. It's, it's beyond my comprehension most of the time.
well, some of the weird parts too is I'll use, we'll use algebra because everybody was only going to remember algebra. Rob may have a student in unit 8, lesson 3, and another student who just started. So it's, I'm teaching algebra, but I'm also teaching algebra at 3 different levels.
Right, I'm teaching 4 units, 4 sections of different types of algebra. 8 sections of different types of algebra courses. And if I was to actually track how many different units, I mean, that would be probably 60 different units that students are actually in at the moment.
It's a math problem.
And I'm assuming that, I'm looking at the numbers on our board report, you're down 80, and I'm assuming that they assimilated back into the regular.
Yes,
classroom.
because last year, February, March is when we went. We started coming back in person K2, and we started that roll in.
Yeah.
So if you were looking at probably grade level numbers, you'll notice that K5 numbers took the biggest initial.
But I started at 23, lost a lot who went back, but then I gained a lot who realized that, wow, this was better for us. And so I've now got 18. So I lost some, but then I gained some. So I've got a steady 18, which is as big as many classes at PES or, so.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the questions I got. Anybody else?
Just a similar question, where I think I know the answer, but just the difference between credit recovery and credit acquisition.
Yeah, so credit recovery is for the students at Plymouth High School who have failed a course that they need to take for graduation. Credit acquisition is they're coming and taking a class with us that's not offered at the high school because they need another science class, or they wanted an AP course that maybe isn't offered at the high school. So that would be our credit acquisition. First trimester, we had 4 students taking AP stats. So that was another class that he was doing. So that was all acquisition.
I almost did not get my master's degree because of my certificate.
So when is your next GED graduation?
So the 2 that that just completed, one is waiting for their friend to finish and they want to do it together. So we don't know. And the other wants to wait because he wants to keep working on some skills and taking some classes with us. So he's going to wait. But we will definitely let you know when the next one will be. I don't think we'll have one this month.
Oh, I thought it was going to be.
No, I have a feeling it's possibly just before
Yeah.
spring break.
Okay.
Probably maybe in March then.
Yes,
Yeah, we were trying to have them once a month, the
third Wednesday or Friday.
Friday of the month, but this month the kids were like, you know what? I want to wait. I want to wait for my friend, who are my friends, so.
Okay, well, I get the notifications, but I hadn't got one lately and I thought maybe I missed it or
No,
something.
no, we had a surge. And then we have one student right now who's working on passing their math test. The passing score is 145. They're at 144.
Oh.
Twice.
They're getting there.
Yeah, they're getting there.
But boy, is that. Oh,
Yeah, I think I have 2 students right now that they just need one test. And it's, part of it is the engagement that I also have with them, texting with them, hey, why don't you get on and take that writing test today, just read, and you can do this, don't worry about it. And so that's part of my day too, just checking on where are my kids? How can I get them engaged with?
Well, I wish you well and continue what you're doing because it seems to be extremely successful.
thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Digital citizenship report.
Ooh, can you hear me now?
Yep, oh, there you go. Okay.
I apologize. I'm doing this on my phone and I'm supposed to be tech savvy, but this is the very first time I've Zoomed on my phone, so I'm not sure what you're seeing or hearing. But thanks for having me. I was supposed to be here last month and I got sick, so I wasn't able to make it to the board meeting. And then this month, I almost missed it because I was watching the curling event with the Olympics and I forgot. Oh man, it's so hard to turn that off. I'm loving that. So I want to talk to you. I'm going to try to make this short because I know that you have other things on your agenda, but we've been working this year on building our digital citizenship curriculum. We haven't had a lot in place. It's been bits and pieces here and there. And we're very excited because we have developed a plan for our K-5 folks that is going to include both digital citizenship, which is about how to be a good person on the internet, how to be safe in social media settings, as well as how to be safe in general. How do you figure out who a predator is and avoid those situations? Only work with safe people. So we are partnering with the ABC House, which is going to come in and teach lessons to our K-5 students. They will teach 4 lessons on safety at each grade level. And then we have a curriculum of 6 lessons on digital citizenship that we will be using also with the K-5 group. And so that's a big thing because we've kind of really for the last few years only had it in bits and pieces. So we're very excited about that. 6th, 7th, and 8th has sort of been there. I did some of it when I was teaching, but Mallory Warren has taken over this year. And because she teaches both health and technology, she's really done a great job of putting everything in. Again, we're in the K-8, we're using the Common Sense Media curriculum. And it's just a fabulous program. It's very complete, and she's just putting it all in between the health and the technology. It's really easy for her to integrate all those pieces in. And so that's that's a couple things that we've gotten accomplished this year that we're really excited about. And I'm supposed to talk to you about the high school because the high school did something pretty innovative this year. At the beginning of January, they challenged each homeroom class to create a lesson that could be taught somewhere between K-8 grade levels. And so each classroom was to create one lesson on digital citizenship or internet safety. And at the end of it, they had a little contest for the best lessons. And they ended up getting prizes in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. Each grade level got a prize, as well as there were 3 special prizes, which Susan may have to help me with this. I know that the Panico Award, Mr. Panico picked one that he thought was the best lesson. Also the Superintendent's Award, and I'm forgetting the third one right off the top of my head. But kids were, classrooms were rewarded with cookies from the Crumble Cookie Company, which was awesome. And Brad from Philomath News came out and took some pictures and met with the students, and they're very, we're very excited about what they put together and what they created. Let me see. Okay, yeah. And so the next thing is we'd like to get those lessons out to the K-8 teachers, and hopefully they can integrate them into their classrooms as well in their advisory homeroom time. The final thing is that the high school is working on a Say Something campaign where they really want to focus on teaching kids about what do you need to tell adults and what do you need to tell other people to make us all safe. So they're starting to build the Say Something campaign, and that's going to be just kind of ongoing for the rest of the year, and just really reminding kids the safe thing is to let everybody know what's going on. So that's my report.
Jolene, thank you. I think if I remember correctly, the Say Something comes from a lot of the information and work from Sandy Hook. And so it's got some foundation there. And the other thing I was going to talk about with the high school homeroom project, I remember when we started talking about it, we weren't sure if there would be 2 homerooms but the participation rate was wonderful between all the homerooms. So we certainly got more than 2 lessons to be able to look at. So it was a really good, well put together opportunity for the students.
Thanks for bringing that up. And, one of the really interesting ones was Steve Bennett's class. They did a little experiment where they decided to find out how safe kids are on social media. And so they created some fake identities on different social media sites, TikTok, and obviously I don't know social media, but I've heard of TikTok. So anyway, so they created fake identities, and then they tried to get middle school students to accept these identities as friends. And they found that they had 80 acceptances of friends. So we had 80 incidences where we had kids that we teach that accepted a friend of someone they didn't have any idea who they are. So that tells us we have work to do, and we're very excited to kind of get in there and share with them about how they can be safe and make good choices.
Okay. Thank you, Joanne. Any questions? No. Okay. Moving on to Ready School Safe Learners. Is that you, Susan? Susan,
Yes,
are you doing the Ready Schools Safe Learners update?
yes, yep.
Okay,
Except you don't want to see this one again. The, oh, darn it. Sorry, I'm losing my touch here. There we go. Sorry about that. I wanted to keep going back to the superintendent's report. Just some general information, and I know the biggest thing, and we'll hit on that also, is there's been a lot of conversation and speculation about when are you going to let us know whether or not students need to continue to wear face coverings at school? And so I will get to that through some of these. There's been a flurry of activity over the last couple of weeks. And there's been a lot of conversation and questions that go on. So it's big. The resiliency framework that the Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority continue to put out was updated as recently as February 9th. And that included the information about some of the indoor masking and pieces of that to make it the most current it could be. The other part of that in terms of its updates are about the face covering, the quarantine, testing, and what it means to be fully vaccinated. And I'll show you that in this piece of information. And also, it includes the information about our need to return what we called blueprints last year. And this year it's the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services. We've met as a group, and it's just a matter of updating the document. We continue to look at, as a district, this particular website to be able to see where we are in terms of the metrics for Benton County. And when I last checked that on the 11th, we have Benton County at a 77.3 vaccination rate. We're at 946 cases per 100,000 and a 15.2% test positivity. And if you remember last year, there was the question or thought to consider moving to distance learning if your test positivity was above 5%. And so to see 15.2 and not panic, because it's been as high as 23 point something for Benton County, just tells us how much more we've learned and how much more we know in terms of where we can look at that particular data. So we continue to look at that as a real bellwether to help us know how we continue to move forward and the things we're looking at. These are some things that we are talking about playing into our determinations about masking, that we want to make sure as we make that decision that it includes all the requirements that would need to be done and what determinations we would need to, what sorts of things would need to be in place for us to then return to masking if we needed to go there as a requirement of our schools and district, because it's now a local decision. So those are things that we're working through. We continue to put on the webpage the weekly reporting. So every Friday, one of our nurses, Laura Bryant, sends case count information from all of our schools and district office. And those are posted on the webpage every Friday so that there's a constant update of what we're seeing. So that continues to move forward. And there are some people, when it doesn't get posted, will call and say, where is it? I'm looking for it. We've had some updated information related to our vaccination clinics. We have one coming up on February 22nd at the Philomath High School Library. And while it will probably be publicized as a family and child event, it is also an opportunity for booster doses. And there will be another one on March 15th at Clemens Primary School in their library. So we have those two already established. I crossed out in your agenda or in your notes, it said for the March 15th, because originally there was to be a potential March 1st approval of vaccination availability for children ages 6 months through age 4. And that decision has currently been placed on hold. And so I crossed that out to make sure that people knew it's not, the likelihood of it being an option is pretty slim at this point, because everything is on hold through the federal processes. I put in information about vaccine status as something that has come up with Oregon Health Authority vaccine rules. And one of the things that they talk about with being up to date in the adult population, it now includes a booster shot. And so to be completely up to date, it is your 2 original doses, plus as soon as you get your booster, you don't have to wait for 2 weeks after that. As soon as you get the booster, you are considered up to date in your vaccine status. For our students under the age of 18, fully vaccinated for them means the primary series, so 2 shots of the Pfizer or Moderna or 1 of the Johnson & Johnson. So those are some things that we continue to look at as well. And that will play into the decisions also that surround quarantine and if you've been vaccinated or not, and what that means in terms of quarantine, face covering, because we want to be really clear with people. One of the questions we get as we make our decisions is, if I am a person that is not vaccinated and I have to wear, or I have to quarantine for a longer period of time, or I have to wear a face covering for a longer period of time, that is calling me out. And I'm identified or could possibly be as being ill. And what we need to do is be able to make sure all the cards are on the table about where all the rules land, so that there are no surprises when we put out all of our information about our determinations. Face covering, as you know, the most recent information put out was that general masking in indoor public places will end by March 31st, if not sooner. And I believe they're looking at hospital placement below 400 cases. And that's when they'll look at being able to lift that. At the same time, they looked at masking in Oregon schools with the adoption of that permanent rule that face coverings in all K-12 indoor settings and removing the requirement to wear face coverings in outdoor settings are now moving in the direction of local decision. And so on March 31st, that is the date that has been set in place for being able to change that requirement. We want to be able to announce that sooner than later. There was one school district, I believe it was Newburgh, that announced today that they are strongly encouraging continued wearing of face coverings, but it is no longer a requirement. So that was the news that went out to their public today. And others will continue to emerge. We're connecting with Benton County Health Department, and we also have another statewide meeting on Tuesday to be able to address some of the information in the particular masking requirements for schools. There's been a lot of pushback in both directions, but the biggest has really been, what does it mean that there are only a handful of states that are no longer enforcing a face covering requirement, and what does that mean or not mean, and how do we decide to move forward in Oregon, but also in schools. So the conversations continue, and we just want to make a well-informed decision as we move forward. The partnership with Benton County Health Department becomes very important, because if they say our county or our area needs to wear face coverings, they win. And so we want to be real thoughtful about that too, and be able to continue the dialogue there. The information that has been pushed on a lot is this last bullet that says the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Oregon Health Authority, and the Department of Education continue to strongly advise the use of face coverings in schools in order to reduce the spread of COVID-19, et cetera. You couple that statement with you have local control now, and you can make that decision about whether or not you wear face coverings, but we strongly advise that you do. We're trying to live through the mixed message that seems to portray. So we continue to meet, like I said, with our state and local partners to determine the implications of the proposed changes for us. We're outlining, like I said, the rules for quarantine, required face covering, any of the protocols, so that information goes at the same time. The last thing we want to do is say, we're going to continue to require face coverings, or we're going to make them optional, but not have any of that extra information that just provides well-informed decisions for families. And of course, because we know families want to plan and be thoughtful, we are very much aware that we need to make an announcement as soon as we can ahead of that March 31st implementation date. And so that is the plan, that sooner rather than later, we will have information out. I put the continued information about quarantine in the report. I'm not going to go through it in great detail, as this is all part of the packet, but it starts to explain a little bit about what the quarantine time means and what the requirements are. One of the things that's been a surprise to a number of people is if I have a confirmed case, I need to quarantine for that day's if I've been exposed, excuse me, that's the word. If I've been exposed and I need to quarantine for that 5-day period, the information also says that I need to wear a face covering for days 6 through 10. And that even includes my time in school sports. And that's the big surprise to some people. And there are some others that will say, okay, then you're calling out my child, who then has to wear a face covering for days 6 to 10, and maybe somebody else does not. And so again, we just need to be clear about what the information is and what that means so that we can make reasoned decisions. The COVID testing in schools, we've had this out there before, and it's information on the diagnostic testing and screening testing to be able to make sure that those are available. And these again are in the board packet that's published online and will be published with our COVID information so that people can access what some of those things really mean. And the other part of that was then, like I mentioned earlier, we have to update our safe return to in-person instruction plan. We submit our original plan, which is posted on the website on August 25th of 2021. We're required to update every 6 months, and they're requesting the update right now needs to be done no later than March 30th. We met with our team on December 9th to discuss plan updates, and then a lot of the rules started to change. And so I anticipate us getting together one more time to be able to make sure we're clear on our updates so that we can meet the March 30th timeline for updating our plan. A lot of information and not a lot of time, but I know that the biggest question will be about where we stand on face coverings, and we're getting there with our connection with the local public health authority and with the other state meeting that I talked about that's coming up this Tuesday that should give us a little bit more information.
In our process for making a decision, I was curious about the staff and what input they have as to whether or not what regulations should be kept.
I'm sorry, is the staff,
Yeah, I mean,
what their
we're talking-
feeling is? We haven't polled the staff to be able to determine what the feelings are. And that's one of the pieces of the process, is to be able to make sure we kind of have a sense of where things are there also. We know we have some immune compromised students. We know we have some immune compromised adults in terms of staff and any volunteers that we have in the school that we need to be very much aware of. And so those thoughts go into the decisions as well.
Thank you.
So you were saying, as I understand it, you said that even if the state drops the requirement, that Benton County could maintain the requirement and then we have to follow that?
Yes, the local public health authority can kind of trump everything. And so if they say that because of case numbers and rates in Benton County, we believe that yes, you need to continue to wear face coverings, then we have to follow their where they're going. From what I've gathered to date, I don't know that they will go that far. Benton County numbers are really pretty good in comparison to a lot of places, but that is a key place. And they're another one that if we were to get another big spike and Benton County Health Department came in and said, nope, we've got to do something different. That's the decision that they can make within the authority given to them by the Oregon Health Authority.
So then the state can fine us if we choose to, like the LC situation.
Yeah, I mean, we could be fined if we chose not to, if we go against the laws, then we certainly could be fined.
Even in a situation where the state has dropped a requirement, but the Benton County Health maintains it?
Well, that's one of the interesting parts, because if you look at the Ready Schools Safe Learners document and you look at the administrative rules, it says that those administrative rules have become not temporary, but they've become permanent. And so the permanent rule says that you will wear face coverings indoors in K-12 public education. That's what's permanent. If you read farther down, it says, but the health authority can make a decision to grant permission for that to be different, pending case rates and things like that. So the language involved in the laws and the documents haven't said masks are going away. It's basically said, here's the permanent law that says masks are required. And then we can make the decision the health authority can say things are good enough that we can drop those. And if things get bad enough, then we can put them back into place. And so, that's a sticky spot too. But yeah, that's, it's not as straightforward as you don't have to wear them anymore.
Thank you.
The other point of clarification that I think may become challenging for community members and students, as I understand it, is that if hospitalization rates get below 400, if the state removes the indoor mask mandate before March 31st, regardless of any of that, school districts will have to maintain masking until March 31st. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
So I think that is another piece, as we're communicating to the community, that they understand that even if, 7-10 days, I think they're kind of predicting right now, we get to that point, it may still not apply to schools for a few more days.
Right. And that's one of the things that the superintendent's group raised in a meeting last week was we have a hunch that there will be, if we were to make a decision to be mask optional, or even if we make the decision to be mask compliant. We finish and come back to school, I think on the 26th or 7th, I can't remember the date, after spring vacation. And so here we've got some students that may not be masked through the whole of spring vacation, and we're bringing them back to school to be masked for 3 or 4 or 5 days. There are some people that want that to go away and say, can you change the date and make it so that when we come back from spring vacation, that's when a decision can be in place. But then there's the other camp that says, but that will give us 3 or 4 or 5 days post spring vacation to be able to watch for any surges that may occur. So again, we've got people on both sides of questioning in that way. But right now, the way the law sits, schools are waiting until March 31st.
Thank you, Susan. School year calendar. It was approved on 4/19 of 21. Is this just informational, Susan?
Yeah, Lillian, could you help us out on that one, please?
Yeah, so the reason I put it in was there had been some questions about the, I just like Juneteenth, I have to stop
Yes,
thinking with the.
thank you.
A Juneteenth day in June.
Oh,
Because we don't have any students then, but we do have staff that on that calendar. The 19th of June is a conference grading day, and so it was brought up that we should maybe make that a not that and move the conference grading possibly out to the following day so that people have that day to I mean, it wouldn't be a paid holiday, but because that's not in their negotiated agreement, but for,
Thank you. The 19th would be a non-contract day, and the 20th would be the work day to allow for the observance of the holiday.
If the teachers chose to come in on their own on the 19th, could they check out at the beginning of the 20th?
Well, and that's a conversation we have not yet had, because if we've got administrators and other people that want to, that want to acknowledge the holiday, then we need to be able to be thoughtful in that way too, to not say, then somebody else has to come in because the teacher's ready to check out. Usually, dependent upon our start dates, we wouldn't run into this in terms of going as late as this. And so it's really looking at the next year to be able to make the determination. One of the suggestions to me was to take out one of the inclement weather makeup days. And my hesitation in doing that is that'll be the year that we'll have inclement weather. and so, the other thing that we could do is, like you had suggested, is this year it won't be a factor for us unless it snows to beat the dickens in the next week or so, because everybody will be done by that point in time. Next year is where we run into it, and it could be that if there was agreement with staff that we could say in 2022, 2023, we will, I guess you could call it optional honoring of that day and allow folks to maneuver their schedules to check out on the 19th or the 20th. And then we would look at full compliance with observance beginning in 23, 24. I mean, that's a possibility.
Was that the only issue, really?
The only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is on the second page where I had put in the trimesters.
Sure.
There's an incorrect date. Tri-3 should start March 20th and not April 3rd. So I need to fix it.
Okay.
And I think that was it, Susan, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I figured it had something to do with Juneteenth, but I wasn't absolutely sure. So I mean, unless there's a you know, a huge preference on the part of the board, we can continue to work on that and be able to see what kind of an agreement we can come up with in terms of where staff stand, especially for the 22-23 school year, since it won't be an issue this year.
Personally, I don't have a preference if somebody wants to work that day. You know, and then just get done a day earlier. I don't know what the board consensus is. I don't think we're gonna vote on it, but I wouldn't have a problem if somebody wanted to work that day and then be done.
But like you said, the only thing would be to, you have to check out that day, the administrators or somebody else who might want to observe it would have to come in that day. Now, if they work that day, they can check out the next morning.
Well, yeah.
That would require them coming back one more day, but I don't.
I think we've got some wiggle room that I can play with, you know, because the holiday is, you know, you hate to shirk any of the holidays, but I think that we can figure out how we want to work it for that year and work our way into appropriate recognition as we keep going. So if you're okay with my continuing to work on that piece of the puzzle, I'm happy to do it.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yep, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
So you can do that. OSEA MOU agreements.
Yeah, these were copies of the MOU agreements that we have made similar ones with PEA and OSEA. We made the MOUs that had to do with using some of our licensed staff or excuse me, our classified staff with the ability to look at emergency substitute licenses this year. We took some of our staff members who are classified staff, they're instructional assistants, and we worked with them to get an emergency substitute teaching license. It's been incredible for us because there have been opportunities where we have been able to say, instructional assistant so-and-so, we have a teacher who's going to be absent, and we want you to substitute for that teacher. They can legally and legitimately do it, and they know the school, they know the students. It helps with any issues of not having enough substitutes. And so it's been a good thing for us to be able to have. The MOU was really about making sure that there would be training, that they wouldn't lose wage. So how would they be paid at the teacher's rate to be able to not continue to be paid at their instructional assistant rate for a day that they're working as a substitute. And so it was working out the details in an agreement that we would be able to honor and recognize our classified staff that had moved into that role. One of those things, for instance, was we would pay for, the district would pay for the licensure. And so that is something that we agreed to. So that's the one of them. The other one had to do with the same that PEA had done, which was about the security cameras in the schools. And so it's very similar to what we did for PEA. And so it's really information to be able to say, here are two MOUs that came through that we agreed to on specific topics with our classified members.
I'll find it again here. District shall reimburse the employee for all expenses. Roughly, what is a dollar amount, or do you have any idea what that cost would be?
The licensure, I want to say, and Lillian can help me there, $150 roughly.
No, the total, it comes out to between 250 and 260.
Okay, I was way off. And what we have a pocket in our of professional learning and growth funding that we've been able to access to be able to pay for that licensure for the folks that have come forward and expressed interest in that. We maybe have a handful of folks who have done that, who are current classified employees.
Okay, so you don't see a big influx, you know,
No.
of people use that thing. Okay,
No. We've really been thoughtful about making that move. And there are some people, some of our classified staff are very comfortable in that kind of a role in being the teacher and a person to be in charge for a day or two or whatever. And there are others that are saying, nope, I'm good just doing what I'm doing, and I have no desire to take that on. And so we haven't seen it as being an overload on the system.
I can easily think of 4 or 5 people just off the top of my head that I think would be good substitutes. For the
Right.
class.
Right.
yeah. No, I don't have a problem with them doing that. I was just wondering what kind of cost the district's looking at to do that. But it sounds like it would be just a minimal cost.
Right.
Then if you've got funds that will help pay for that besides general fund money.
Yes.
Okay,
How long does the emergency substitute teaching order last?
It's good for the current year.
Okay, so it's really a short term, really.
So we're not even doing new ones at this point?
Okay,
We're so late into the year already.
yeah, okay.
And we don't know if they'll come back around next year and offer that as an opportunity again. We don't know. So if they do, then we will look at how do we do that again, or what's the need, and revisit that at that time.
Okay, moving on. Action items, the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Also move.
If we move, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, policies, second reading. BDBDA.
This is the firearms on school property policy.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling down here to get to it here. Oh, oops.
Or is that me?
That wasn't me. Mine was the last one.
Sometimes you can find your phone.
Weird. Listen. Okay, this is, I'm looking at the highlighted.
We want to look at the second one first, because it's really the only thing in the highlighted one, and the first one is the fact that it refers to the second one as how deadly weapons are defined. And so we really need to look at the second one, the KGBB. And we had this discussion last time because one Anton wasn't here, and so we wanted to have the full board to look at it. And we also, I mean, I have no problem saying we don't want guns in school buildings. I do have a problem with what happens if somebody's just walking through campus, has their concealed carry weapon on them. Theoretically, you'd never see it, so it's probably not much of an issue anyway, but I have a little bit of a problem with, I mean, what would be, Susan, from your standpoint, if something came up where they were, you know, somehow somebody saw them with, you know, it was under their shirt, they just caught a little glimpse of it and reported it. What would we do as a district? What would you do as a superintendent? What would law enforcement do? I mean, that's my biggest issue, is with somebody who inadvertently was on school grounds, you know, and I mean, the general school district grounds, not the building, but because I would assume we would post signs, we would post notices, et cetera.
Signs would be posted, and the information suggests or talks about securing appropriately, securing appropriately to not take inside a school facility. And you know, like you said, if there's the possibility that we're never going to see it, but if we're seeing it, I can't tell you what law enforcement's going to do. But we would address that either through, if it's, and again, I think it would be somewhat situational in terms of we can call law enforcement and be able to get them involved. If it's somebody that we know well, and again, you just can never tell that you want to get law enforcement involved, or could you say to someone, hey, remember, and get the thing out of the school. So the key is being able to get it out of the school. But as far as law enforcement, I've not asked, in terms of saying, if we were to call, what would you do?
My biggest problem would be is if there was an overreaction from an innocent mistake. Because people that are concealed carry permit holders are usually very, very responsible with their weapons. So I've never heard any, like locally, of anybody that was a concealed carry holder getting in trouble. So.
And it may be that continues to be the case. My general thought is, for me personally, I would rather err on the side of making sure that we're being thoughtful. And it could be that if somebody panicked and called law enforcement, it would be as simple as saying, please remember you need to secure it, and that's enough. But I'd almost rather err on the side of being cautious rather than making an assumption that, any weapon on campus is going to be a safe thing. And that's just me.
And I would just also point that if their weapon is visible, they are no longer in compliance with concealed carry law anyway. Just a thought.
Well, but some people could make assumptions, like for example, if the weapon is printed, meaning you can see the outlet, looks like the outline of it, it is still concealed.
No,
So
it's not, because if you can see the outline of it or anything, concealed is concealed. There's no, to me, there's no gray area in being concealed or not concealed. If they have it under their jacket and they raise their arm up and the tip of it shows, it's no longer concealed. If they're wearing clothing so tight that it shows, it's no longer concealed.
Okay, I didn't understand it that way, but okay.
Yeah, well, being a concealed carry permit person in the past, it's pretty well, when you go through the class, they explain all that to you, that it has to be concealed. It can't be partially or, where anybody can see it, then it's no longer concealed. Then you don't fall, like Aaron said, you don't fall under the rule anymore. I don't know. I have a tough time with this one because I have been a concealed carry permit person. As far as I know, there's no problem with people who have the concealed carry license in the past. Any problems around schools or anything else, I have I won't say a problem, but it worries me that we're making a place that is gun-free or weapon-free, however you want to describe it, that allows anybody that wants to know that, there's no protection of the people on the district property by somebody who may have a concealed carry permit from somebody else coming in and, doing things that should never be done, with a weapon. And I can see the point in not wanting any firearms on the property, but I can also see the point that if people don't know who does or who doesn't have a weapon, it makes it a little more deterrent to coming on the property and with the thought of shooting up the place. I just have a hard time with that.
I appreciate that very much. I know that is coming from a safety standpoint, and I understand that viewpoint. I would point out that a lot of school shootings that have happened on school campuses where they have resource officers who are armed, visibly armed resource officers, and it has unfortunately and heartbreakingly not prevented the school shootings. And these are trained professionals whose job it is to stop violence from occurring in a school. I appreciate where you're coming from very deeply.
Well,
Because we all want to keep all of our students safe.
And I'll respond to that. And, you know, like you said, they're a uniformed school officer, school resource officer. The people know where those people are at. But if you have people on your premises that have concealed carry, they don't know who those people are. It could be the person standing next to them. It could be person down the hall. They don't know who that is. So right there is a deterrent in my mind, that these people know that they have X amount of time, and if they take out the school resource officer, they have even more time because there's nobody else there. I mean, that's what I have a hard time dealing with in my mind is, you know, you put somebody there, and probably not the right terminology, but then I never have been politically correct, but you put a target on them, put them in uniform. They have a target on them because that person is coming in there to do harm, knows that if they take care of that person, then they've got X amount of time where they don't have to worry about anybody else being there. So that's all I got to say. Anybody else got any comments?
As I look at the language on the policy that's highlighted in green brackets, that requires us to, the district will post clearly visible signs at all normal points of entry. Have we explored what we consider to be normal points of entry? Are those going to be,
Because there's a lot.
automobile paths of travel? You know, are those going to be, walkways, coming from the new community there in Chapel? I want to make sure, I don't know how much we can modify this from an OSBA perspective and still be, they have lots of lawyers who look at all this on our behalf. And if we are able to remove the term all and just have it be at normal points of entry, I just think, this comes really from a facility services perspective of sign maintenance, and when a sign disappears and you realize that you took it down, I'm not too concerned about the cost or any of that. I'm just thinking, if it's our policy, then we have to follow our policy. So, yeah.
Do we not do something similar to when we banned smoking on all school grounds? Like,
I'm sure.
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there was signs like entering the parking lot saying that you can't smoke anywhere on the school ground. So I mean, I think it can be done, but you're right,
sure.
all that is an all encompassing word.
I just want to make sure that maybe, I don't know, that as I was reading through some of this, that was one piece that I thought, if we were to pass this, that it does put some, burden is the right term, but some requirements of us as a district to comply with our own policy. I want to make sure that we are ready and prepared to comply.
One of the things that we researched when we were researching this is it actually does not include parking lots because people's vehicle is considered a safe place for their weapon to be secured under the state bill. So that might also cover certain other aspects of what you just mentioned.
The school grounds.
Yes, but the way that the state bill is worded, there's a bit of flexibility there. So I'm not entirely certain, but the pathways would be different than obviously than parking lots. So that is a very good point about signage requirements, and boy, do I get a lot of signage requirements on a weekly basis. So I understand.
Well, I would be inclined to leave all normal points of entry because of the fact that the state issues these permits, and the state originally designated where you can and cannot carry. Then they passed the rule or law, whatever, that allowed exemptions, like the schools. there's school districts that don't have this policy. Members of that community will come down here and think that they're within their legal right to carry because they carry at their home district. Even if it's on a walking path or something, somebody going to a baseball game in the springtime comes in the walk path, thinks that they're legal, and they're not. And if we don't have that posted, I don't know what kind of legalities we have to stand on if they didn't walk past a sign that tells them, since they have a state issued permit, that it's not valid on this property. So I think that we have to leave it that at all normal points in there to cover us legally if we want to pass this and enforce it.
I guess I would point out one line where it says, you know, any person violating or threatening to violate the above rules is determined by the district may be issued a trespass citation, meaning we are within our rights to just give a warning.
Yeah.
You know, if we feel that it was, oh, okay, yeah, you didn't see the sign, okay, just in the future, and then, you know.
Yeah, and I agree that that was another component that I felt better about this policy in that term may, not shall or must, but maybe is a citation, you know.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of it if it said shall or must, because it's each individual thing, and a lot of it in my lifetime, my experiences, it depends on their attitude. You know, if they come in here, you know, with a less than reputable attitude, okay, maybe we pass this trespass, we go past the ejection, and we just refer them to law enforcement. Sure. But if they come in not knowing that they violated, and we bring it to their attention and they go, okay, well, let me go lock it up in my car. I don't even see a need for trespass citation. It all depends on the situation and how it's addressed.
Yep.
So I think that verbiage in that paragraph right there is good. But I believe that we need to leave all normal points of entry covered simply because we can't control where somebody may walk in them.
And I'm just curious, at any point, the state law, which was passed by the legislature a couple of years ago, will be challenged on its federal constitutionality, or it can be. I kept expecting that, and I haven't heard anything about it. So.
I don't know, but I guess if it is challenged and overruled, then we'll deal with it then. But you know, with the laws that are in place now, you know, if a district wants to have a policy like this, it's up to them to do it.
Yeah.
So, is there any more discussion? Okay, all those. I gotta have a motion.
Lillian has a discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Just point of clarification, the BDA policy you did pass last board meeting, I just put it in there because it was a reference for the
Yeah, we had talked about, so we just need to pass.
KGBB, so you really only need to vote on KGBB unless you want to vote on the other one as well, thinking you might change your mind.
I think we would start with this one and then see how.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if this one passes, the other one's kind of moot point anyhow, so. I'd be wanting to entertain a motion on policy KGBB.
I move that we approve policy KGBB as written in our packet, our work record.
I second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Oh, I was the dissenting vote. What's that? Well, I mean, it's written in the minutes, who's in favor, who's against, so. Okay, with that being done, I don't think that we have to vote again on BDA. because we did that last month, unless Anton, you got something real pressing on that one or anything, so, okay. Well, we'll move on to the meeting closure, board reports and thanks.
Well, I'll start with a big, huge shout out to the business department. Good job on the
Great, yeah.
audits. Yeah.
For sure.
It really does make our job so much simpler when you guys are so good at what you do. And we don't have any problems that we have to solve. So thank you so much. I know that. When she was talking about how all of these new things, I was just like, oh my gosh, my mind's clouding over. I better understand what she's saying though. I mean, all the new rules and stuff. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just, second that, and also I just, the academy presentation I thought was wonderful tonight, and doing a great job. I think that it's the more we can do with individualized instruction and learner focused, instruction like that that's I think that's great. The more we can do that, the better. And obviously within budgetary constraints, but.
I guess I have one small thing that I was able to attend the cheer team state competition and see them go out there and leave their hearts on the competition floor, and they did an excellent job. Despite having a lot of late minute minor injuries and some more major injuries that required a lot of reworking of choreography and stunts and all of that. So that was really wonderful to get to see, and also to see all of the other teams competing and just how respectful of each other they all were was really nice to see. I always enjoy seeing good sportsmanship in action.
Where was it held this year?
It was at Oregon City High School.
Okay.
So, yeah, very well run from everything I saw. And there were a couple of times that I saw teammates from other teams cheering each other on off of the part where they're visible to the judges, which is always nice to see that continue behind the scenes a bit. So yeah, that was great to see. And they have another, their final competition of the season this Saturday in St. Louis. So we'll see how that goes for OCCA finals. I think it's really cool. I should know.
Okay, I would like to thank all the staff once again. I mean, it never gets old saying that, because all the staff does everything to make this district what it is. And if it wasn't for all the staff, it wouldn't be what it is. So it's not just one group or individuals or anything. It's everybody combined that makes it what it is. Susan, for doing all your extra things, that you had in the board packet tonight. Takes a lot of time. I realize sometimes things get overlooked when you're busy with other things, but it happens. But I still want to acknowledge the fact that, I think you're doing a very good job. So I do have one question.
Thank you. Yeah.
I went to the OSET, whatever they call that, last weekend over in Albany, which is the equestrian team. And we have kids from Crescent Valley, Corvallis, and I don't know if there was any from anywhere else, but do we have to have co-curricular like we do with Kings Valley when they have kids come into the district to do things? Is that a requirement for that too?
I don't believe so, because it operates more as a club than it does a recognized interscholastic activity. And so because of the nature of what feels more like a club, even though it's called a team, makes that a little bit different.
Okay, well, I was just over there visiting with them, and they said that I think there was 5 from Philomath and 4 from outlying districts. So I was just curious if we had to have an understanding with them to do that. But it sounds like if they're a club activity, then something completely different, so.
Yeah, Philomath is kind of that, they've got a quite a good group of involved students. It's awesome.
Okay, yeah, and I think they did very good over there. I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but it was interesting to see what they do in that, and I watched some of the cutting and stuff, and they had one team from Staten that I believe the state record was 48 seconds. You got 10 animals in one pen, you have a little opening, and then they put them in the other pen, and you're given a number when you first start, like 1, 2, between 0 and 9. And you have to get that animal first. And say if it's 5, then you have to get 6, and then 7, and then 8. And if you go out of order, you get a no time. The kids from Staten did it in just a little over 44 seconds. Got all 10 of them in there in order and set a state record at the same time, because it was like 48 something and then it went down to 44 something. But then a team, I think it was either the next one or 2 behind them, broke the previous state record, before that day at 47 something. But since the team in front of them had already set the new state record, then theirs didn't qualify. So, very, very interesting the way that they do things.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great to go over there and watch that. And I got to commend the people who run that program, not just district-wide, but school. All the effort it takes to get those kids and the horses and to get them trained to do what they do. I'm kind of scatterbrained on this stuff. I want to thank the high school kids for their food drive that they had. Very beneficial to the community. I'm glad to see that they take initiative to do things that are positive for the community, not just the school, but for the whole community. So I think that's about it. So I know I'm forgetting something, but I'll think of it later.
Just one little question, Susan. Have we had any issues with, I know we don't own or contract out the buses, but have they been getting enough drivers, or how have we had issues with busing this year?
It's been a struggle, and they've had to combine some routes, and some of it has to do with drivers and some of it has to do with the COVID protocols of distance and things like that. And so I just heard that they were going to add another, look at another route with the addition of another driver. So they've done a great job of making the best efforts they can to be able to keep buses on the road and getting kids to school in a timely manner. So hats off to them. They've been doing really well.
Thank you. And I just want to say ditto about the financial people in the audit that they just went through and come out in flying colors.
We'll pass it on to the rest of the team. Thank you.
Okay, any more? All right, the next meeting will be the 14th of March, Monday. I'll have to be changed. Everybody needs to change that on their calendars so that they get here, especially me, because if I don't. Yeah, but I haven't changed mine yet. Okay. Is there anything that anybody wants to see special on the agenda? Okay. Hearing nothing, I guess we move to adjournment. Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you